Hello and welcome to the RPG Rundown. I'm Seth.
I'm Jeff from Dungeons to Deep Space. We've got the systems and the stories for your table. Well, hello there. Welcome back to the RPG Rundown. Today, we're going to be tackling a question every GM has wrestled with at some point or another. How do you get your players to actually care about your world's lore? We've built kingdoms and crafted histories, written prophecies. And sometimes all it seems like our players care about is where's the next goblin to stab? Right. If you've been following along with our critical review system, you know that the first I in it stands for the integration of lore. And that's exactly what we're going to be digging into today. How to weave lore into your game in a way that players connect with, remember, and get excited about. So today we're going to be sharing practical tips, fun tricks, storytelling strategies to help your players connect with your world, and all this fun stuff. I mean, after all, GMs, we're storytellers. We love lore. So let's jump into it.
Absolutely. But before we do, we've got to cover our, few little tidbits and updates. First, we're going to talk about games and hobby time. So,
Mm-hmm.
for myself, I'm still on hiatus for my regular campaign. And unfortunately, life has been so hectic with travel and work and family that I still haven't played anything. And I feel terrible. However,
Right.
as some of you may know, I also have a huge love for BattleTech, a tabletop war game, and the lore and RPG stuff that goes on with that. That for Halloween, I created a an adventure, a lore scenario for like kind of a BattleTech one shot. And I also created like a monster mech for the people to play against. I even went so far as to reach out to a 3D model artist that I have become acquainted with, and we set up a collaboration and have it in a 3D mini, which I'm
Mm.
super proud of.
Yeah, that is awesome.
So,
So good.
my camera won't focus on it right now, but it's very cool. And if you are like, what is this big green lizard guy? It's Trogdor. Okay. It's Trogdor, the Burninator, in mech form. It has a beefy arm. It shoots fire. It has wings, little winglings, you know.
Oh
So
yeah.
anyway, but I put out a full test pack, not test pack, but full play pack to a bunch of people over in my BattleTech side of things, and had a lot of fun creating that. Got a lot of input from friends and fans, and then had some other people paint it and stuff. So that is my
Hmm.
that's been my hobby time lately. How about
Nice.
you, Jeff?
Yeah. So we actually are also on a hiatus. So my Daggerheart campaign has got to a point where I don't want to continue the story on with any player missing because we're like literally probably one session away from ending it.
Mm.
And so I want everyone to be there, or at least, ending the current storyline. If the players decide we want to continue the storyline, then we will do so. Or if we want to continue in the same campaign with their same characters and stuff, we'll do so. But either way, what I have written so far, we are one, maybe two sessions away from ending it. So I don't want anyone to miss it. And so because of that, we've had to cancel the last two, maybe 3 weeks. And honestly, one of the weeks we had a board game night at the church, and so most of us were there. And then another week, one of our players, their son had a big race that same day, and so we had a lot of stuff going on. But so we're kind of at a pause on that. My own personal hobbies, outside of TTRPG stuff, is I've been doing a lot of woodworking, and that is actually going very well. I've been, building things and selling them on Facebook Marketplace. It's just, something to keep me entertained. I like to build things, and it gives me time to listen to books and stuff. It's actually been going well. It's a great little side income. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I've been super, super busy, but I can't hardly tell you what I've been doing because it's just been a lot of everything, it feels like.
I completely
But yeah.
understand. But who says that woodworking isn't game related? I mean, you can play games on those tables, Jeff.
That is true. That is true. I've been building dining tables, and I have been drafting up some TTRPG specific table ideas too. So,
I mean, I created a table for my wife last Christmas, for her to play mahjong on. But after I was done, I was like, this is kind of a perfect size for like tabletop games.
right. Yeah,
So, I
exactly.
mean, maybe Jeff, we should put our heads together and like really come up with
Right.
something that
And
works
see what we
well.
can come up with.
Yeah.
That'd be a good idea. I like that.
So, we can, totally put Wormwood out of business.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Maybe. I'm not liking our chances, but
Probably not. Probably not.
we'll dream big. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
Well,
it for me.
real quick, give you an update. If you have listened to the last episode or watched the last video on YouTube, we talked about at the time an upcoming Kickstarter, which is now in full swing. It is Tome of Beasts acrylic tokens from Splattered Ink Games. They're partnering with Kobold Press. They are in the swing of their current campaign. Let's see. We're going to show it on screen if you're watching the video. They are currently at $64,636 out of a pledge of only $3,998 for 239 backers. So they've got 25 days left to go as of recording, which we are recording on a Sunday night, and this will go out in 2 days on a Tuesday, about 36 hours. So yeah, it's going really well for them. Again, definitely check out these Tome of Beast acrylic tokens. It's not just Tome of Beast. There's over 400 tokens coming, and they are, a couple hundred from Tome of Beasts 1, the book from Kobold Press, and then a couple hundred from the D&D SRD document. So all of the from that, and those are the ones that Jeff and I actually have and were able to test out and take a look at and preview. So you should definitely go check out our previous episode where we talk about those acrylic tokens. They are phenomenal, so cool.
They're great. Yeah.
There's just super high quality, and if you want to play while you're traveling, acrylic tokens are way easier to carry than minis and big maps and stuff. Or if you just don't have room or the ability to do, big 3D stuff, again, this is perfect. So definitely check it out. They are so cool. They have a bunch of different sizes. They have custom storage options. I'm telling you, these are worth it, 100%. And that's by Splattered Ink Games, which, if you recognize, they did Time Traveler's Guide to Hunting Dinosaurs, which is in still ongoing Kickstarter right now. Or it hasn't fulfilled yet, essentially, though. But then we also have another one that is out right now that I wanted to call attention to because even though I have not previewed it, I would love to if somehow Chepeku hears us. But Chepeku has Bastions and Guild Halls, which is their new modular map making tool software, essentially. They are at $375,721 of $19,000 goal with 8,322 backers.
Wow.
That's insane.
Yeah, that is. Of course, Chepeku, everything they put out is phenomenal.
Oh, it's so good. Their tokens tool is incredible.
It's so good. Yeah.
I'm not subbed to it right now. I've kind of like paused all my subs and while I'm on hiatus. But
I've had to do the same things. Yeah.
But man, this though is cool in that you can just buy it. It's not a sub. And you'll get a whole bunch of stuff, and you can get even some of their tokens packaged in.
Right. That's cool.
So yeah, incredibly cool. It is not expensive, guys. If you are a GM or even someone who thinks you might GM sometime, this would be absolutely worth it. It's a whole bunch of modular rooms and terrain and stuff. Lots of amazing artwork from their artists. Yeah, 100% recommend this group. This Kickstarter, drag and drop. Yeah, but like I said, so for just the basic stuff, it's like 30 pounds, which is about $40 US.
Okay. Yeah.
And that gets
It's
you,
not bad.
that gets you a Chepeku asset pack with maps, scenes, and tokens, and then lifetime access to bastions and guild halls. So
Nice. Okay.
lifetime access.
Yeah.
That's
I like
100.
lifetime access. I
Lifetime
would love
access
to
is
get more
great.
stuff that's not a subscription. I
I
would say.
agree. So tired
Yeah.
of it.
Everything is subscription right now.
The next tier up is Fabled Seeker. It's about 38 pounds or 50 US dollars. It has the same stuff. It has the asset pack, maps, scenes, and tokens. It has lifetime access to guild halls and bastions, and then has beta access to guild halls and bastions. So
Okay.
it's, if you want beta access, that's the one to do. Otherwise, if you're content to wait till it comes out,
Right.
$40 is very reasonable. So
Yeah. No, it really is. It's awesome.
there, obviously way more tiers than that, but there is a demo, so you can click and try it out. So highly recommend. Highly recommend.
Yeah. I'm gonna add it to my tab list of things to look at later.
Right, exactly. But you know what? Let's get into our main topic, shall we?
Mhm.
How to get your players to care about lore.
Yes.
Now, like Jeff said earlier, you have poured your heart into crafting a rich world, layered histories, intricate factions, and deep character backstories. But how do you get your players to actually care? In this segment, we're going to dive into the art of making your lore matter at the table. From weaving personal stakes into world events to revealing secrets through gameplay, we'll explore practical ways to turn passive listeners into invested co-authors of your story. Because at the end of the day, that's what an RPG is, right? It is cooperative storytelling. So yeah. But yeah, let's get into it. And Jeff, why don't you start us off, and then we'll go through that.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, we have 8 of these, right? Is that what
I
we came
think
up
we
with?
do have 8 of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. And by the way, anyone listening, I don't normally sound this phenomenal. I'm battling something, and I have a voice, but I got a little bit of tea and honey and root beer. We'll make it through this. So yeah, the first thing would be to create some sort of lore primer, and this is actually one thing I've really loved with Daggerheart. I've been playing a lot of Daggerheart, and I love campaign frames. And the idea of a campaign frame is it's like this small document that has a lot of the lore and things that are needed, and a lot of them. So we are playing in the Witherwild right now, which is a campaign frame in Daggerheart, and I actually was able to craft up some pretty easy primers because this is completely new to my players. Like the Witherwild is unlike any scenario or place that they've played in or world that they've played in. I mean, in the Witherwild, you have 7 days of darkness and 7 days of light, right? Like that is the day-night cycle. And all of all natural like creation is like corrupt and things. And so just having a simple document, like a one-page document, I didn't want to make it too extensive or make it seem like it's gonna take a long time to understand, but just something that you can hand out, give them, introduce them to the world, introduce them to the lore, give them some basic information to get them started, and then we'll kind of develop it on, and as we actually go through our tips a bit more. But I always like to start with some sort of document or lore primer, as we have it said here, to get you started. What about you? Do you do like a lore primer and stuff too?
Yeah, absolutely. So for my campaign 2 in Hearth and Hammer, I had a lore document that was, I would suggest only trying to do it about a page. I had
Right.
developed
Yeah.
a little bit more, so I think I had like a page and a half, but part of it was because I had a like custom race and a custom class that I had included.
Right.
So those took up a little bit more.
Right.
But for the lore itself, it was a page or less. So yeah, like keep it short, easy content to consume quickly and reference
Right.
easily. So
Yeah, that's great.
but yeah, I think along with that, also for point number 2, have a session 0.
Mhm.
Um, it can be tempting to just skip that and try to make people kind of set their characters up ahead of time.
Right.
But having a session 0 can be very important. Whether even if you can't do it as a full group, maybe have individual session 0 conversations with your players before your first session. That way you can kind of help prompt them to create tie-in lore. So when I say that, I mean have them, in creating, don't just have them create a backstory, but maybe help them create a backstory, one that fits within your world that you've created, right? If you have somebody that's like, oh, my parents were killed by vampires, you're like, well, there's no vampires in my world, that's a
Right. Yeah.
problem. So
Yeah, that's a problem.
you
Mhm.
know help them make sure that their backstory lines up.
Mhm.
Have them create an NPC that could show up later, whether it's a mentor or a friend that could just pop in, and you as the DM could have them pop in and
Mhm.
reveal,
Yeah.
be a part of the narrative, and it then ties
Right.
them in. Um, or maybe instead of a friend, have them be a rival. Have
Yeah.
an antagonist show up that might be for your player's character. Um, when you're doing their backstory, create a lore item that they are carrying with them, or maybe it's something they're seeking, like they're on a quest to find some lore item, but create that lore item together with them in that session 0.
Right.
Um, One thing that Daggerheart does really well, and having a group session 0 allows for this, is create bonds between your characters. Um, Maybe not all of them; they don't all have to already know each other, but maybe say, all right, find another person in the party and create a reason you know them, or create some bond that you have. And so that is a lot of fun. I love that in the
Right.
Daggerheart character
Yeah,
creation
that's
process.
great.
But doing that so that then they also have buy-in in each other's backstories. It's phenomenal.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's excellent. Yeah. No, I always recommend having a session 0, and usually the way I do it is I'll have a session 0, and that's where we're gonna cover the world, rules, then I always try to go around, and I usually have, like, a document that I have my players fill out if it's a new players, things they like in a TTRPG, things they don't like in a TTRPG, and then we kinda go through all that in our session 0. But then I'll always plan at least some form of a small session after the session 0 just to see how our group works together and stuff. And usually it's that intro session where they meet in a tavern or whatnot, and they go on some sort of basic little adventure together to start the quest. And so yeah, I love having a session 0, and yeah, it gives you a great chance to share lore, to answer questions because they may have questions about the lore, or they may have an idea and they want to know if it's possible to be done in your world with your settings, and then it gives you a good chance to go through all that. So 100% recommend having a session 0, at least the best that you can. The next thing I would say is make lore matter in gameplay, right? And so don't make lore something that is, just information they have in the back of their minds, but it never actually comes up. Like if in your session 0 you told them all about this secret faction that's, actually stealing cats in the middle of the night and is like selling them to at the enemy army or something, like make that come up. Like make that a thing. Like as they're going through, I don't know why I gave that as the random example I just did, but like as they're going through the local taverns, have people talking about how the cats are missing, or have like the first several fights they get into, they start to notice that, oh, almost everything they're fighting seems to have feline like instincts, right? And I don't know why this is the illustration that I've gone
Just go
in
with
with,
it,
but
man.
like,
You're
yeah,
world
no,
building
that is
right
where we
now.
are. Yeah, they're stealing cats. Why are they stealing cats? I don't know, but they're doing it, and like and somehow that comes out in the
They're
actual
using
gameplay.
cats to possess their soldiers and give them cat-like abilities.
Cat-like
Totally
abilities,
makes
yes, and
sense.
so it makes sense, and so then your players learn that a giant ball of yarn is the best way to defeat all the armies, right? They
Mhm.
just roll it
Yes.
out there, and the soldiers can't help but chase it, right? But like the point that I'm trying to make is like find ways that the lore is actually relevant in how they're playing the game, because ultimately a TTRPG is a role-playing game. It's a
Hmm.
game, and they want to play it, and so make sure the lore comes up, right? And one way I like to do this is I like to actually give my players, and I like to ask my players like questions like, how does your character respond to like lore items? So one of the things I like to do is, give players choices, right? Choices equal ownership. And so something you could say is like, oh, there are these two houses, ancient houses that are always against each other. Which house does your character line more with? Or your characters heard all of the ancient stories. Do they believe them, or do they regard them as mythology or a fairy tale? Right, just things like that to make it matter
Yeah.
in the gameplay and the way that the characters are actually being played. Um,
Yeah,
what about you? Have any cool
absolutely.
ways to do
I
that?
would I would say when you're making the when you're preparing for those character choices to come up, make it a full encounter. Prepare for that encounter just like you would a combat encounter. So make sure that all right, this NPC is going to be asking the characters this question. And they have, maybe this NPC is also trying to persuade the characters. And so maybe you need to give them a persuasion score, or a charisma score, like then you have to flesh out this character stats for this NPC. So prepare for things like that. Prepare for, okay, what if the players have this ability? What if they want to try to get something by? They want to lie to my NPC. Um, you know, can they do that? Are they going to be able to do that? Is it, or do they have a high perception? Just again, you gotta think about it ahead of time, how the
Right.
players are going to interact with it in an RP setting, not just a combat setting. So,
Hmm. Right.
um,
Absolutely.
yeah. Also, so kind of tying with that in, right? So regularly connect different PCs' backstories, right? And so since you've established their backstory in a session zero, and you're trying to make lore matter in gameplay, um, then take turns dropping hints for different characters in sessions. Whether it's a little snippet that connects their lore to the main story, or maybe you've done that a few times for every character. So like I said, don't just do it about one character because then the others are going to disconnect. So
Right.
make sure you're spreading the love around, but then then you could go into like a full session that explores a character's side story. Maybe they said they're from this town, and your party has wound up. They have ended up in this town,
Is it- Right. Yeah.
and so oh well, you know what? This is where this one character's from. So this is a perfect opportunity to tie in their backstory. Um, but like I said, get them get their stories involved in the main story, tie them in a way that uh, provides interest.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No. Absolutely. And that's one of the things. It's really important as the DM too to like to one know the backstory, but also to know like their their flaws or their tales, right? Like to know the things in like if you have a character who's well, for example, in my actual D&D campaign, I had one of my characters, his mother, in his backstory, his mother was killed, and all that was really found was like a basically smoke and ash covering the area. And so like I used that little bit of information to actually build one of my ending fights. And then in the same way, like the where they're going and who they're actually fighting against is going to be very closely connected to the death of his mother. And then at the same time, that same big the BBEG was actually one of the other characters in the party, I was able to kind of twist things a little bit to where one of the other characters in the party was actually grew up in like the house of basically a big bad and was trained under and actually still proclaims loyalty to them. And so like I was able to way their storylines worked out and their backstories worked out. I kind of made this be the same person. And so which
Nice.
has really put them in an interesting conflict right now because one of them's like the homie killed my mom, and the other dude's like, but I'm loyal to him too. And so like there's a interesting conflict they're kind of working through
Mhm.
in that where we've paused for like 4 months now. But we'll figure that out at some point.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's knowing that like knowing that backstory and then how you can bring it into the actual lore of what you're writing or of your world or of your campaign, specifically and integrating that and getting them involved.
Yeah. I mean, like in my recent campaign that is paused at the moment,
Mhm.
one of my players is a priest. And he chose Grave Cleric as his,
Oh,
subdomain.
yeah.
So he basically he and his mom have are doing the whole caretakers of a graveyard kind of thing.
Mhm.
But they raided a dragon's lair. Okay, dragon was already gone. Um,
Okay.
so it was actually a friendly dragon, but they tracked down its lair because the dragon had been killed, and
Wow.
so they found in there, and this was one of those things where I had like the big book of random tables, right? And so one
Right.
of the things that was like, oh, what did they find in here? And they rolled, and we got like an 8 by 12 foot tall like character portrait of this like very stunning woman in like a red dress, with this gilded frame with
Mhm.
gemstones in it and stuff. And it started as a joke, and then it became canon that this
Yeah.
woman looked exactly like my priest's mom.
I
and
love it.
and
Yeah.
so they're like, and so then he just ran with it, and that was
Mhm.
like a on the spot kind of thing. And so then he's been for I don't know, several sessions. He basically like has been like making sure to take extra care of this painting because he doesn't know why it's his mom, but he's like, that's my mom.
Right.
Like, it's like,
Yeah.
what
Oh
the
man.
heck?
Yeah.
So it's great. It's great. So it's
Yeah.
tied in, and we're like, why is she connected to dragons? Why
Right.
did this
Yeah.
dragon have a big portrait of his mom? And so,
Hmm.
so then he's like having some other things play out that kind of link him to dragons. So it's been fun. Been fun.
Yeah. No, that actually rolls perfectly into my next point too, is introduce session lore through discovery, and that's exactly what happened here. Like they're
Yeah.
going through the dragon's treasure hoard, and they discover lore, and
Hmm.
I think that's one of the cool things. Like when you're playing a video game, if you've played Skyrim or Baldur's Gate or anything like that, like you don't just sit there and get a huge screen that just reads off all the lore to you. You actually discover lore as you're playing the game. And so like you'll go and you'll pick up a book and you'll read the book, or if you're like me, you don't, and you just hope it said something cool, right? And you sell it to the next person you find. But in D&D or in TTRPGs, we can have those moments where it's like, oh, you find this giant picture, right? And oh, this is your mom. Okay, now that's lore, right? Now that was added to the spot. But you can actually plan this out. You can say, I know that they're going to be in this graveyard, and in this graveyard, they're going to see some very familiar like surnames, and
Hmm.
those
Yeah.
surnames they'll know link them to the town that's 100 miles away. They're like, why is that town so far away from this, right? But you can find ways to link that together, and then you can add in like scrolls and carvings, or maybe they kill a villain or a bad guy, and like the last words they utter just adds a little bit of lore, piques a little bit of curiosity,
Oh yeah.
paints a little bit of a broader picture of maybe the faction they're against, or the people they're fighting, or maybe the person they're trying to save. Right? We're not trying to give it all at once. Maybe we're sprinkling bits and pieces of lore as they play the game. Right?
Yeah.
Just to keep them interested, wanting a little bit more. Then we can do this. We can have NPCs that, we've curated an NPC that this particular NPC has all the lore. He knows everything that's going on, but you've got to get it out of him. You got to get it out of him through RP, right? You've got to talk to him. You got to pass some persuasion checks. You've got to ask the right questions. You've got to even know to find this guy.
Hmm.
Like in my Daggerheart campaign, there's an individual named Eldenath, and he's the root father, and really he's the guy that kind of knows everything that's going on. But they had to actually go and talk to him and ask him the questions and kind of pry some of the information out of him because he's holding a lot of it in to protect the town that he's there to protect and stuff.
So he's wit.
And yeah, yeah, he's kind of the wit. Yeah, essentially.
Sorry,
He's a
Cosmere
little bit
tie-in,
nicer. Yeah.
obligatory Cosmere tie-in.
Right, yeah. And so yeah, but like you have those NPCs or maybe you have found items or maybe it comes through dreams and visions. I've done all of those in this Daggerheart campaign I'm in right now. I've probably done all those in one session actually. Now that I
Hmm.
think about it, and it's just all these different ways that you can drop bits and pieces of lore that they're learning more about the world, they're learning more about the problem, they're learning more about the solution, right? They're learning all these things about your world that you're building, and it's just coming as bits and pieces, right? Like
Yeah,
I think that's a cool way, and then it makes your players want to discover more because they want to learn more.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And discovering is part of the fun of the game,
yeah,
obviously. But don't feel like you, as the GM or DM, have to do all the creative world building. Okay, lean on your players. Ask your players, and this is the next point. Ask your players to describe what they see. Ask them to give you the details of something within in the encounter. Um, you may have created the town and you may have all the stats for the town, but make them describe it. Make them tell you what it looks like. Make them tell you what that NPC looks like, or what they sound like, or what their attitude is like. Leave the description, the world building, up to the players in some of those instances, and that giving them that creative freedom and ownership of the world and story that you're building together absolutely draws them in.
yeah,
um and make sure that it's not just one player, right? If you've got 5 people, make sure it's not just one player doing all the descriptions.
right,
Pull it out of them if you have to.
yeah,
You're not the only person. It's a collaborative storytelling experience, right?
yeah.
So let them tell part of the story.
Mhm. And I think that works really well if you tie it in with number four as well, where you're connecting their backstories. And so, especially if, say, you visit the town that they're from,
Hmm.
they're like, okay, Margot, we're walking into your town. Tell us what it looks like. Right, like, or oh, we're meeting your mentor. What does he look like? How's he talk? Right, like, what's he saying to us? And then that might be a great way to introduce that because I know I've done that before. I've sat down and I've been like, "Hey, what's this tree look like?" And my player's like, "I don't know. You're the DM. Tell me." And I'm like, "Bro, play my game." Right, but it was Reborn, of course.
Of course it
But
was.
like you ease them kind of into that and get them really thinking creatively, right? And I think an easy way to do that is when you pull out elements of their backstory because they already have some idea about it, and so they can very quickly just describe it the way that they imagine it, and then it becomes lore, right? It becomes canon.
Absolutely.
Next thing I would say, and this is something that I really like. I'm very much a visual person, and so create visual aids.
Hmm.
Now, I'm really excited. I bought a laser engraver, and so I built my own DM screen, and it actually has a monitor in it. And so everything that I do, like I have a graphic that I've created for my campaign that I'm running, and literally it says like the campaign name, and it has like pictures of the player characters and stuff, and just like even something as small as that helps bring them in because I have it. We're playing in the Witherwild, so I have vines and like mutated creatures and stuff in the imagery, and like it really gives you a sense of the world you're playing in. But even like outside of that kind of visualization, even just having maps available. Maybe you have a world map, and maybe if you're playing like in my D&D world I created, it's called Maradonia, and the idea is that it kind of takes a little bit from like the America Wild West type, but
Hmm.
it's still a fantasy world, fantasy setting. But I like to do my maps like it's a piece of parchment that's been kind of rough and burnt, and it looks like it's been hand drawn on there. So my world map, I hired someone on Fiverr to make it, and I wanted it to look look like an old Western map. And like whenever I'm introducing someone to my world, I can show them that. And it just kind of gives you a sense, at least a little bit of a sense of what the world feels like and what it's about. And I think anytime we can create visual aids, it draws people in. One of my campaigns I did, this sort of ties to the lore. A way that I gave the lore is I actually 3D printed a puzzle, and basically they spent the entire campaign with this puzzle in their hands. Like the players had the puzzle in their hands, and they could shake it. They knew there was something inside of it, but it wasn't until like session 15 that they got the answer and was able to solve the puzzle and open it up and find what was in it. And it was actually seeds, but the seeds themselves were very relevant to what they were doing at that time. And it was a way that I was able to drop the lore. But my players actually every session would shake this thing and they would twist and they would try to guess at the words and stuff and never could open it until they finally got the answer in game. And then it was like their players were, or their characters were opening it up and they discovered what's been, here waiting for them the whole time. And that was
Nice.
just a simple visual aid, something they got to actually put their hands on and look at. And it also drove curiosity, and that was my intention with it.
Yeah.
And it actually led to, ultimately, what led to, their how they were going to defeat the big bad.
And I guess we,
Yeah.
we put create visual aids as this point, but I
Mhm.
guess you could just say game aids because you
Yeah.
could also create audio cues. You could have
Sure.
musical
Oh, yeah.
cues.
Hmm.
That's a lot of work.
It's a great point.
So it's not
Yeah.
quite as easy, I don't think. But that could also be an idea for you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so like those, having all this going on, that's a lot. There's a lot to keep track of.
Mhm.
And so what our final point for this episode is going to be provide session recaps.
Yeah.
Okay. Whether you have a player or yourself that likes to take incredible notes, like detailed notes, or you are collecting all their notes and compiling them together, or you're recording your game either with a phone or some sort of audio recorder and then summarizing it later. Like, make sure everyone's on the same page when you're starting the next session. You know, make sure that they have enough details to remember, especially because, again, scheduling can be hard.
Right.
Maybe it's been a month. Maybe they've completely forgotten where you were doing.
Right.
Maybe it's only been a week and they shouldn't have forgotten, but they forgot that one little detail. So
Right.
provide session recaps. I mean, there's a lot of really great ways to do that. There's really great ways to summarize it now, way easier. I mean, like, I know AI as far as generating, art or story is very controversial, but it can also very easily record a session, like in an app on your phone, or if you're in person, or if you're playing online in a meeting room, whether it's Discord or Zoom or something like that. They have like those automated recaps that you can get now, summarizing it.
Yeah.
That could be very useful.
Which is
So
really cool. Yeah.
there's tools out there. You could just, also manually record it and do it if you don't want to use AI. But just
Right.
giving the players that recap helps bring back the immersion so much faster
Oh, yeah.
and allows them to connect back to the other things that we've mentioned
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things I do. And because like you said, scheduling happens. Like there are times where we go months in between sessions. And so I always try to write up some sort of recap. And if I'm smart, and I do this sometimes, I do it immediately after the session. Because sometimes I don't, and it's like a month later, and I've also forgotten what happened.
Yeah,
So I'm like reaching out to all my players, like, who has notes? Because I'm not a note taker. I'll be honest, I'm not. So like looking into one of those like AI note taking devices, I'm strongly considering it because I am not a note taker. So it would be awesome to have something that did take notes for me.
yeah,
But yeah, like I would recommend doing it though, like right after your session or maybe the next morning or whatever. Like sit down and write a recap that you plan to read to your players at the beginning of your next session. That way it
absolutely.
updates them on what just happened. It also puts them back in the moment, right? And so, like, a lot of times I try to actually write it very theatrical. I'm like, okay, it was late at night. Margot used your shadow power to jump behind him, landed on his back, and took down the last of the creatures. You all stand before you. You found a necklace laying on, and I try to like really put them back in the moment so that our gameplay can just get started. Right, because I've played with so many different groups. Some groups are really good at just getting into it. I play with a group. My Daggerheart group are all really good friends, and so sometimes we can sit at the table and talk for an hour and a half before we actually start playing D&D. And so sometimes I like to have a recap just to like try to get them back into it and to get started.
Yeah,
Um, but
absolutely.
yeah, recaps are fantastic.
Yeah, and needed in a lot of instances, in my
Oh yeah,
opinion. But yeah, so that does it for how to get your players to care about lore. Those are
yeah,
some 8 useful tips for it. Um, Hopefully Matt doesn't, say that exactly, because I feel like we've had lots of number equals tips. But yeah, it's
that's
something
usually
that
good
is
though.
incredibly useful.
Yeah,
And it ties in with our critical review system. But
right,
we've kind of been taking a look at each one of these individually, and this ties into our integration of lore. So,
right.
but that's going to do it for tonight's episode. We are super thankful that you have joined us and you've listened or watched this far. We are actually a part of Love Thy Nerd, and you can find us over at Love Thy Nerd's website, which should just be lovethynerd.com. You can also check out our YouTube channel. Hit that like and subscribe button. It is youtube.com/at the RPG Rundown LTN. And so, yeah, we are part of the Love Thy Nerd podcast network. Jeff, tell us about Love Thy Nerd.
Yeah, so Love Thy Nerd is a group that exists to love our nerdy neighbors. We are a group of Christians who have amazingly awesome and nerdy hobbies. We have podcasts that span everything you can imagine, from wrestling to retro games to board games to us over here with TTRPGs. But it's just an awesome, wholesome, family-friendly community. I strongly encourage you to join the community, to get involved, to delve into the myriad of content that is being produced through Love Thy Nerd. Truly, there's something for everyone.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for joining us. And from our table to yours, thanks for joining the RPG Rundown.
And until next time, may your roles be epic and your stories legendary.